Hey, welcome to lesson number 4. Now we have the most difficult part of the course, which was the morphing effect. We have a nice morphing. You can see that it's not as smooth as we want it to be, but that's one of the best things that we can get from After Effects at this point. Hopefully they will get this better on newer versions, but for now we can work around with these morphing effects with what we are going to do right now. Now we have the path morphing each other. Remember to save your animation as many times as you can. Now open the transfer controls panel, and on the contents you will find an add button, and on this add button click on this little button here and click on offset path. Now you will have another option here besides path and everything, which is the offset path. The offset path, what it does is that it creates like a stroke, like a big stroke. It's offsetting the path that we created. You can see that it works sort of like a stroke. So we can change the amount, or we can decrease it. We can even inverse it like this. So let's begin by setting this to 0. And here's what we're going to do. I want this shape to offset when we make this transition and go normal again when we arrive to the next number. So here I'm going to click on the stopwatch on amount of the offset path, and of course select round join. So I'm going to click here, and here on the middle, when we get to the shape, I'm going to increase the amount for, we can set it to 20, so we will get this shape like this. And when we get to 4, I'm going to lower this again to 0, so we will have this. So you will notice that the number is expanding a little bit and then goes back again. And what I like about this is that it helps to hide some of the defects that we have on the transition, because right now you can see that we have these weird looking morphing effects here. So when we add some offset path, we hide these defects, we have these mistakes that the software has. You can see that we no longer see the weird shapes getting together or overlapping. So that's what I like the most about offsetting this. Okay, so we need to again change this. Here we can create a keyframe for 0. Here it would be 20 and 0 again. Create a keyframe, 20, 0, keyframe, 20, and 0. So now we have this. Now you can see that the transitions are way smoother now because we offset it. You can see how this doesn't look so weird anymore. We don't see those weird overlapping effects that we had before. So that's what I like the most about offsetting. Now we're set with this path. You can close this. And now it's time to give the final touch. That will be the rotation. So we're going to take this. I'm going to press the R on my keyboard and create a keyframe for the rotation. Now press U so that we can see everything that has some keyframe. And when we get here, I want this to move when we get to number 4. First, I'm going to take the rotation here. I want to make the rotation. Let's take the pan tool and make sure that the rotation is here on the middle. Okay. Now for the rotation, I want to create a first rotation here, maybe to 70, so that the numbers begin like this. I think it's better now. Okay. Now let's move to 4, and I'm going to create a keyframe, but instead of moving these degrees here, I'm just going to move to add a 1 here on the X, so that means that it will give a whole round. Press 1 and you won't see any difference, but if you take at the timeline, you can see that it rotated a whole lap. Now go to the next keyframe and create a keyframe here with the same properties. And here's what I'm going to do. Right now it's moving like this, but I want this keyframe to have a little offset. So I'm going to move it just a little bit more like this. So when we hit play, it will look like this. It will move too much and then go back to the original position. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same process. When we get to number 3, I'm going to add a 1, 2, create a keyframe, and move this just a little bit. On 2, I'm going to add another lap. Here, create a keyframe, go back to the previous keyframe and add some degrees. And finally, set this to 3 so that we get here, and we can add a new keyframe over here and change the rotation on this one. So in the end we will have this. Alright, this looks very good. Remember to save all the time because After Effects might crash anytime. So we have the morphing effect and we have the rotation effect. So we are done with the number, but we are missing one final thing here, which is really nice, and we are going to add here enable motion blur and make sure that this layer has the motion blur checked here. So when we make the rotation, you can see that we have a little motion blur. Now there's one final trick that I want to apply, and I'm going to pre-compose these numbers. I'm going to call these, we can call these numbers 2, move all attributes. So we have this, and now I'm going to select numbers. I'm going to layer, time, and I'm going to select time stretch. So right now this animation lasts for 6.5 seconds. So I want the stretch factor to be lower so that it's faster. So we can make this 60. Let's see how it looks. Alright, you can see that the animation is way faster now. And that's exactly what I want to do. And now we can see even more blur with the motion blur. Alright, so we are pretty much done here with the numbers. Trim your composition. And we are done with the morphing effects. Now it's time to add some nice effects to make this look very, very cool. So see you on the next lesson.